it comes to the TV show Obliterated, I'm going to be completely honest and say I was actually surprised of how good this show was. Firstly, starting with the humour, it really is enjoyable all the way through. There's plenty of humour, whether it be the slapstick humour, whether it be the gross imagery, the hallucinations, or even just the fun but dumb, silly dialogue that we get all the way through. It all makes an entertaining watch. When it comes to the plot, you'd think that the idea itself on paper just sounds ridiculous and dumb, but it really actually works out very well, as we're seeing a team essentially who are supposed to be the most professional when doing their job, and we're seeing that they are drugged up, they're drunk as hell, and some are even in somewhat comas, and they're having to do this job with all of that under their belt as well. It's just really a fascinating watch, just on the plot alone. It really works for a limited series concept. It's amazing. Throughout the show we get so many twists and turns. Some of them are quite predictable, but at the same time you really are taken aback as they're so unexpected. It really throws you for a loop at times, and it is quite an enjoyable watch because of that. When it comes to the show's character development, it actually is quite impressive, especially with the three main SWAT members, that being Trunk, McKnight and Gomez, as in the beginning you just believe they're these very stereotypical patriotic USA #1 type of people. But as the first episode continues on and the main plot arises, we see these stereotypes start to fade off, especially from episode 1 onwards. We see this with Trunk, who he reveals to be not who he really is in the first episode, and this starts an awkward dynamic between two of the characters and their friendship, and that was really interesting. And then we see McKnight, who we believe is the ultimate Chad stereotype in this show. But in the first episode it is revealed he's quite a mama's boy, because his dad left his mother at a young age, he's been there to take care of her, and they have really quite a close relationship. But we also learn throughout the show that he has emotional issues. He seems to either bottle it up, or he usually deals with emotions through anger and never really comes off compassionate enough. He's just either rage or he bottles it. We notice this with the finding out about his friend, with one thing and then another thing, not saying spoilers. And then when it comes to Gomez, we see that she treats her love life like she treats her professional life, and that being she'll see a target, pursue that particular target, and once finished with, leaves ignoring all consequences. And we really see that she regrets doing this because she went after a bride on a hen night, and she tried her best to ditch the person, but sadly that person continuously followed her, and it created quite an awkward dynamic. We see this really makes an effect on that character. But the best part of the character development is through the character of Paul, who is usually the straight-edged pilot, but this time he got spiked by the bomb defusal squad, and because of this he is having hallucinations, and we learn quite a lot about this character through these hallucinations and just the show overall. We learn that he is quite a protective father, and sadly he feels very guilty for the fact that he is more on the job than he has been a parent, and when hallucinating that really starts to get to him, and we see throughout the show he'll do anything to protect his daughter and really wants to make sure that she is safe. Very interesting, and it really does show that these writers made him more than one-dimensional. When it comes to the fight scenes in this show, they are very remarkable to watch. I really enjoyed them from the very beginning all the way to the very last episode, which had some of the best choreographed, unique fight scenes, especially the one in the kitchen. If you know, you know. When it comes to the finale, like I said, amazing fight scenes, very funny, but also adding in the emotional aspect into this episode, as we see characters' lives nearly being lost, and Paul, the pilot, making the ultimate sacrifice to not only save Las Vegas but also to save his family as well. We see it actually does get quite emotional during this bit. Now when it comes to criticisms, I only actually have one, and it's about the violence in the show, as it is rated an 18, and we see that the show does have a lot of shootouts. It is quite graphic and imagery, but when it comes to the violence, I don't think it's that gory or anything really. It has its moments, but it's not outright. And when you get these shootouts, as cool as they are, they lack blood. And when you see blood in this show, it's actually quite digital, and it slightly bothers me, as you'd think that a show like this would use the prop blood rather than just digital effects, but again, that's just me. Overall, it's a real fun, edge of your seat show. The concept is really worked in a limited series capacity. I really enjoyed the character development. It wasn't so one-dimensional, and I really enjoyed the fight scenes, the action scenes, and just the comedic dialogue as well. Those reasons alone, is this show good? I'd say it's great. Rating wise, it's an 8 out of 10. Now when it comes to would I rewatch it, as fun as the show is, I would say I wouldn't rewatch it. Not by myself anyway. If I had, say, a friend or a partner who wanted to watch it, then 100% I'd be down to rewatch it with them. But by myself, maybe a year or two. When it comes to recommendations, I'd start off with the TV show Archer, as like Obliterated, it is also about a group of somewhat professionals in the spy area having to take on serious missions, but because of one person or an entire team's lack of professionality, we see that they kind of fail in that regard, whether it be Pam or whether it be Archer himself and his excessive drinking. Next, I would say 24, not only because of the twists that go on throughout the show, but also because of the main character's inability to stop and just continuously pursues the target even when things seem dark and at their lowest. The only difference I'd say is one is more serious than the other. On to a show in the lesser extent, I would say The Recruit, the Netflix show that came out last year. Very much like 24 meeting Chuck, it's comedic and action-packed. I'd only say lesser extent, as I would say this show was a much better version than The Recruit, but I still recommend it. And then because of the amount of Rambo references we get throughout this show, I recommend the first one, First Blood, as again it's the only one I've seen, but I also recommend the comedic version of Rambo, that being Hot Shots But Duh, which was a hysterical sequel and a much better film, personally speaking. To me, it's as if they took all the seriousness of Rambo and literally threw it out of a window. It's very comedic, stupid and action-packed, all in the same time. Those are my recommendations. This has been my review for the TV show Obliterated. If you have enjoyed, please like and subscribe, but most importantly, thank you and have a nice day.